works. Well, thank you very much. This is my third time with Startup Thailand, so feel a little bit like home, even though it's a different venue today. I was going to say that I love the picture that shown in the previous slide. I was told that it was not producible, but I'm glad that you can see it. Today, we just heard very impressive technologies, obviously very high tech, as the title of this session is, the deep tech. But I want to kind of give you a hint a little bit that my technology is actually very simple. And part of that, even though the title might sound very impressive, which it is, that we potentially can reduce 80 to 90% of the heart muscle death after people have heart attack. But I also want you to see that, like when we come into innovation or the products that will solve people problems or our patients, it's not about having the high technology. The most important thing is that can we solve the problem that people still have today, and you will see that right away. So again, my name is Pramod Hojalan. Oh, I feel like the mic is actually better this way. So if you can't hear me in the back, feel free to raise your hand. I can see that. My name is Pramod Hojalan. I'm from Thailand, of course. I grew up here and graduated from Sirat Hospital, and that's where I got my MD. But I went to the US, and the company was started in Twin Cities, Minnesota, which is also a medical device hub in the world. So we have a lot of companies like Medtronic, Boston Scientific right there, so which is a good benefit there. And right now, as I put some logos of some things that you guys, I believe that everyone is familiar with all of these logos. So I have been back and forth in Thailand the last 2 years, and part of the mission is to set up the partner with the Thai partner so that we can do this project collaboratively and with the Thai, and also hopefully our projects can result in the knowledge transfer of the innovation process to Thailand. And my personal mission is I would like to see Thai medtech innovator that actually making global healthcare impact. Because, I said that many times. I'm not going to say it today as much, but I can say one thing, that medtech might sound scary and intimidating, like if anyone wants to start, because it's definitely very capital intensive. But the thing is, it's very straightforward. And you can talk to me later after this. It's very straightforward, and most importantly, is a global by nature. The previous presentation already shows that, right? I mean, if you do something about the bone, or in our case, it's about the heart, it's the same thing. No matter in Thailand, in America, or in, wherever in the world, the heart attack is the same. So that means that even if you do the project here, if you can solve the problem here in Thailand, that's most likely, pretty much 99%, that solution will be also as effective in the US as well. So what I'm saying is that it's a global by nature. So that's why I try to encourage people to look into this. All right, now we get into what you guys want to hear, I guess. So we try to solve the problem with heart attack. Everyone probably heard of heart attack, and I'll probably just say it very quickly. So heart attack actually, even though it sounds like a very common name, but it's actually have a very distinct and very exact medical terminology. Heart attack is the blockage of the arteries that supply the blood to the heart muscles. And when that artery is blocked suddenly, and then the heart muscles start dying. Well, anybody knows that, right? So the problem is that the today treatment is to use stent. As you can see on here, you have heart attack like that, and then people put balloon and then leave the stent in there in order to open the blocked artery so that the blood can flow to the tissue that is dying. And that sounds like it solved the problems, but unfortunately it's not, because the blood that goes into the heart muscle that was injured is actually start dying more, because the flow that coming actually induce another set of inflammation. It's called reperfusion injury. And it's very sad to tell you guys that we know about reperfusion injuries for more than 50 years. So we know about this, and we also know too, well, that's next slide. We know that, that this phenomena happens, but we don't know what to do for the patients. So as a result, this is the data that really eye-opening. Because even today, the guideline is to have stent as early as possible. But you can see that as over the year of like about almost 5 years, right? They follow about 100,000 patients around the world. They found that as they reduce the time, for the delay that people get stent, as that improve, the outcome hasn't. Like the patients still die as much as it was before. So that means that there's some things in our treatment today, which is just open the blocked artery, is not enough. So, and that's where, almost our technologies come in. Well, also in all research too, probably like about 30 years at least, researchers also knows that if you just cool the heart down just slightly, just like, about 5 degrees centigrade down from 37 to 32, we can reduce the heart muscle death. So this graph, since we don't have a lot of time, I can show you. You can go to, from there, this is amount of how much that cell death occurs, right? You can see, fast forward to this one, it reduced from over 40% down to just 40%. This is what I'm talking about as 90% reductions of the heart muscle death. And you can see that this is a very simple technology. It's almost like refrigerators, right? You just somehow make the heart cool, right? But the problem is this. The problem is what I highlight yellow, that if you do cooling too late, you actually almost like didn't do anything. You can see that between this graph and this graph, the heart muscle death is about the same. So that is a problem. Oops. So the problem to our project is how to find the technology that can deliver cooling fast. And here's come to our technology. And that's what we do. We actually use a catheter just like this one. And this is our system. We are still very early stage. And this is from our animal study in Minnesota. And this is our prototype. As you can see, that is a very simple device. And it's just a bunch of pump and tubing. Something that you might see a little bit more advanced, it's just monitoring system. But in terms of like the engine itself, is nothing sophisticated at all. But the result is phenomenal, right? We can actually reduce the heart muscle temperature to the target treatment temperature in just 2 minutes. This is 30 times faster than the current cooling technology that do total body cooling. And why is actually very simple. Just because we cool the heart locally rather than cool the whole body. And I don't have time to get into that details, right? So that is the reason why, like I said earlier, that I want to highlight that simple technology can actually produce phenomenal results. And this is what innovation should be. But when you do innovation, you cannot fall in love with yourself too much. You have to look at the competitive. You have to look at what other people is doing. And this is what our competitive landscape that we're actually looking at. This is actually have some columns that are the other benefit rather than cooling, but I don't have time to go to that right now. But the summary from this slide is that to show that we are superior in terms of heart cooling and also in terms of preventing other complications from heart attack. So in other words, we are, and that's what sum up in the last sentence here, that we are the only one who's going to provide the comprehensive solutions for heart attack treatment. So, we also have to validate our assumption as well. So we talked to a lot of key opinion leaders, but these are the two that we want to quote here. One is Dr. Bart from Harvard. Another one is Dr. Kroner from Huntington or from Pasadena, California. Both of them are in the leading research. The top one is the clinical research, and this one is basic research in this field. Next we have to look at is market size, right? Because at the end, what we are doing today is not research. We're trying to make a product, a sustainable product that investor can get the money back. The project itself can be self-funded and then continue to actually produce, the products for people around the world. So we look at the addressable market, the focus market, which is the massive heart attack. There are about 1.5 million people who have heart attack in the US, but we only focus on 300,000 of them that actually have massive heart attack because this is a group that we think that we can prove our benefit in the clinical study much easier, and we can show the benefit quicker. So in other words, drive to the quicker patient adoptions. And even with the focus market, we're still talking about $1 billion market. And actually, many people said that our pricing model is too low. But so in other words, I can say that this is a very conservative estimate of our addressable market. And beside that, our patents is actually, which next slide, I believe, our patents also cover other clinical application as well. And the next one that we probably could pursue is the stroke, right? We can do the isolated brain cooling as well. So, and that is actually even bigger market, is $2 billion market. This is a clinical path. Actually, the previous presenter already present like the process of that. So I'm not going to go into that. But the point here is that we are still in early phase. We in the non-clinical. We actually get to first in man, but we're still very much in the in the preclinical phase. But everyone should know that the longest time that takes for medical device or medical innovation development to be the final product is actually not the technology itself, but it's actually the clinical study. In our project, we estimated that our project would take from this point on probably like 5 to 7 years. And you can expect like at least 3 years or 5 years on that going to be just clinical study. So that's something too. If you guys doing something about medical innovation, the next question is like if you walk in Minnesota and you talk to people will ask you sometimes, some people even ask you before, they want to know about your marketing or your exit plan is how big is your clinical study. I have been asked by that before. So that's something too you have to have in your mind right away about your clinical study plan. Many investors and many CEOs would not know that before they actually even talk about anything about engaging or investing in your company. So this is just kind of like a housekeeping that you have to do. You have to look at patents. We found 7 patent applications. We got already 4 granted. We should get the Europeans granted by the end of this year, which, by the way, I don't really recommend people file the European patents early on because it's very expensive. Regulatory, we also look at that, and also reimbursement is also important. How your device is going to get paid, all right? So this is my last slide. I didn't have the pen. Oh yeah, I have the pen and that. So this is my last slide to summarize, right? This is the projects that have a big impact. It would set new standard for high-tech treatment, and it also have big market. Very important when you do a medical device, you should think right away from the beginning your exit plan. How your investor going to get money back from your their investment with you. Thank you very much.
ขอบคุณค่ะขอเสียงปรบมือดังๆให้กับดร.ปราโมทย์ หอเจริญด้วยนะคะขอบพระคุณท่านมากค่ะเอาละค่ะ